Good morning, everyone. There's a story told about a father and a son walking along the shores of the ocean, the beach, after a major storm. And there was flooding, and the fish were washed ashore, and the waters went back in, and there were thousands of fish along the coastline flapping in the air trying to get some oxygen. And this little boy is picking up one fish at a time and throwing it back into the ocean so they could live. And the father said to the son, "Sonny boy, what difference is it going to make? There are thousands of fish along the shoreline. You can never save all the fish." And the boy bent down and picked up another fish and threw it back in the ocean and said, I may not make a difference to the thousands of fish, but to this fish I made all the difference in the world." Hence the famous saying that says, "To the world you may be one person, but to one person you may be the world." It's very inspiring to look at the news today because there are hundreds of people, tragically, that are unaccounted for in the Bahamas, besides all the devastation. And wherever you turn in the news, there are airplanes and boats and shipments hundreds of people from all over are going on these missions now to help the people in the Bahamas. There's a story here somewhere in Florida. A guy walked into a Costco and bought 100 generators to take to the Bahamas. And usually you think of Bahamas as a vacation destination. People go there to check into a 5-star resort and sit on the beach and drink pina coladas. But here people are going to roll up their sleeves and spend days or weeks helping the poor people there. And in this week's parsha, we have an interesting law. And it's fascinating to see how modern and relevant the Torah is. The Torah speaks 3,300 years ago, but its messages are so applicable for 2019. One of the tragedies we've seen in this country is the rise of violence, gun violence. And we feel that there's a certain desensitization where people, they've grown immune to feeling, and it's like everyone washes their hands from it. I'm not responsible, it wasn't my fault. Each party says it wasn't my fault, the NRA says it's not their fault. Everyone wants to wash their hands from it. Where does the term washing your hands from it come from? Washing your hands from guilt? It's this week's Torah portion. Torah says if a dead man is found on the outskirts of a city, one homicide, a single person, Torah says all the elders, all the leaders, all the elected officials, the elders, the Sanhedrin have to come out to the scene of the crime. And they have to stand there and they have to measure to the closest city. And then the elders of that city have to come and bring an atonement, a calf, to atone for the sin. And they have to say, our hands did not spill this blood, which Rashi interprets to mean, do we think that they murdered the guy? No. But we didn't know about him. We didn't know he was vulnerable. Maybe he was a poor person who came to us for help, and we didn't help him, and he went out on the road and he got killed somehow. We didn't give him lodging. We didn't give him hospitality. And accountability and the responsibility goes to the highest level, the high court of Israel. The greatest rabbis have to come and spill his blood. But they cannot wash their hands from the guilt completely. They still need atonement because the innocent life was killed amongst the Jewish people. That's the level of accountability, of culpability, of responsibility that the elders and every leader has to feel when there's one death in society. But the commentaries point out that if you look at the law of Egla Rufa, the homicide, the story of a man found outside the skirts of a city, it's sandwiched between two sets of laws. As an introduction, we have the laws of war, that when you go to war, you shouldn't even cut down a fruit tree, because man is like a tree in the field. You should first try to make peace with the neighbors before you go to war. There's no alternative, you go to war. Right after these laws of Egla Rufa, the man found murdered, the human being found murdered, we go to next week's Torah portion, again revisiting the laws of war. So the commentators say, why is the law of the lone individual found dead sandwiched between two sets of laws about war? And the rabbis say something very profound. Sometimes in the midst of war, so many lives are being lost, we lose the sensitivity for the value of one single life. We say 6 million Jews perished in the Holocaust. It's such a mind-boggling number. Do you understand what one human life is worth? And we stop crying out. You think about it in Israel, when a young girl was 10, 20, 30 deaths to even make the news today. So the Torah says, today we watch TV, we see wars in Afghanistan and Iraq and killings and bombings. We lose sensitivity. So the Torah says, in the midst of battle, when you have war on both sides, you may forget the value of one human life. It's just one person, you may think. You may not be alarmed. The Torah says, no. As it says, if you save one life, it's like you saved an entire world. And if you destroy one life, you destroyed an entire world. You destroyed that person, all their future generations and descendants. And when we look at what goes on in the Bahamas, we could be like that father who gets despair. We can't save all these lives. How are we going to rebuild? We have to realize that in the darkest times we have to see the goodness of humanity as we see today. People helping, people trying to make a difference. Because you may be one person to the world, but to one person you could be the entire world. I saw a beautiful quote yesterday that said, we have beautiful stained glass windows in the shul, and the quote said, human beings are like stained glass windows. Why? Because during the day they sparkle and shine. But at night, they only shine if there's light radiating from within. When things are good in life, everyone sparkles and shines. But when things are dark in the world, sometimes you have to see the inner light radiating outwards to see the sparkle and the shine and the brilliance of human beings. It's in these dark times in our society, and now watching what's happening in the Bahamas, we see the inner light of people who are going to make a difference. And whether you're able to go to the Bahamas to make a difference, every one of us can make a difference in some way just by going on your computer. There's a number of appeals, but this is the time that we have